You're listening to The Quieted Mind. I'm J.R. Buckley. Few statements would be less controversial in today's polarized political climate than to say that we currently live in an extremely polarized political climate. I'm recording this in early 2020, which in the United States is a presidential election year. We will also hold elections for several seats in our national representative bodies, the House and the Senate. These are occasions in which our ongoing polarization becomes especially pronounced. Over the past several years, and perhaps especially over the past few years, this polarization has manifested in ways that have led to separation between family and friends. Holiday dinners became less bearable, and many of us decided to sit out altogether, or were politely, or not so politely, asked not to visit. Conversations with old friends became incendiary when we realized our view of the world and each other had changed so drastically we could no longer be in relationship. These developments in our lives are an unpleasant exercise in impermanence. There was a time when that relationship was pleasant, maybe even close. Or perhaps you were able to tolerate drastic differences in that person's worldview that became more extreme and irreconcilable to the point where you could no longer be associated with them. Or maybe they ended it with you. This extreme polarization, which has led to the severance of so many once harmonious relationships, has given birth to feelings of resentment and bitterness. Many of us have, consciously or unconsciously, continued to nourish the seeds of bitterness in our own consciousness. These feelings were not unprovoked or unwarranted, and it is not the purpose of this talk to convince anyone to reconcile with people from whom we've been separated. It is important, however, to understand that we may be allowing these people, who we believe to be separate entities, to water and nourish these seeds of bitterness, resentment, and anger. We are, in reality, a continuation of everything that has come before, every condition that has shaped our consciousness. If we become conscious of this fact, we may realize that we have been working in concert with these estranged people and continuing to feed these parts of our consciousness and allowing bitterness, resentment, and anger to become overgrown like weeds in a garden, while we ignore things like compassion, understanding, love. When we think of our consciousness like a garden that contains many different kinds of seeds, we can understand that some seeds, or parts of our consciousness, can be very beneficial, and perhaps others not so beneficial. Just as a garden can bear good fruit, good vegetables that are delicious and nourishing for ourselves and others, it can also produce things that are poisonous, deadly. The garden of our consciousness has many different seeds as well. Seeds of understanding, love, compassion, and also seeds of envy, jealousy, anger, resentment. When we think of our consciousness like a garden, it helps us to understand which seeds we would rather water, which parts of our garden we should nurture to make them more fruitful. This is true of our own consciousness and of the broader collective consciousness. if we seek to be a refuge for those people who are hurting, if we want a society that seeks to end suffering, we must become aware of the parts of our garden we are tending and water the seeds of understanding, love, and compassion, rather than those of envy, jealousy, anger, and resentment. Metta, or loving-kindness meditation, is an ancient practice within Buddhist traditions, designed to water the seeds of compassion in our consciousness. When practiced regularly, it can help form a sort of mental muscle memory that orients us more toward kindness and love for others. I invite you now to join me in the practice of Metta. At the end of this talk, find the Metta meditation practice episode. Together, we can nourish the seeds of understanding, compassion, and love, and in turn, help others to nourish those things in their own consciousness. Namaste.